All right, so we're going to segue to our next J vlogger. This guy hails from Chi-Town, Chicago, Illinois. This is YungJamez, and his channel says, the realest motherfucker in the land of the longbacks.
What is a longback?
Longback, I had to look up because I had no idea. That's a girl with no ass. So YungJamez already like dissing the girls in Japan on his page. But I think YungJamez has been in Japan for 2 years.
He said like two
Something
or three
like that.
years. He said he went
2
to
or 3 years.
Japanese school, which I thought was erai, at least.
He went to Japanese school in Japan?
Yeah, to learn
Okay.
Japanese.
All right.
Yeah, this dude's like, he's a bro type dude. Some might say he's a Chad. But I mean, watching his videos, I thought he was pretty chill.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say he's a bro or any of those things.
But I don't know, man.
But also, like, you know, like...
Go.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go.
But also, he's younger. Again, we did the progression. We went from Chase, 30 plus years, real chill, knows his thing. He's telling you straight up what's going on. He's had a couple decades to analyze his experiences, and he's pretty much come to terms with living in Japan as a foreigner. Then we get JPBM. He's been there 10 years. You know, he's there fighting. He's trying to get out there and giving you the real stories. You know, and he's kind of like jaded. He's not loving it there, but he's still fighting. He's still doing his thing there. Then we got YungJamez, who's been there 2 or 3 years. He really likes it over there.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, forget the haters. A lot of his videos are about haters, about people who are like, you can't make it in Japan and all this type of stuff. But, you know, he keeps a positive outlook on things. You know, for me watching it, I'm kind of like, yo, Wakai. A lot of the things he says, a lot of the experiences he has, you can tell his age. I mean, actually, I thought he was younger even.
No, he said he's still like 27, 28.
Okay, so like again, he's almost 30. I turned 30 in Japan, so we're not too far in in age.
Right, yeah.
But so that's why, you know, sometimes watching his videos, I'm like, really, dude? But at the same time, I realize that like he doesn't have context for a lot of these things, and he went to Japan because without having a bunch of friends who are Japanese or whatever. He's meeting people there, and he's having experiences there.
I think he has friends there now.
And also his perspective, he's got an American perspective.
Oh, 100%.
So it's kind of limiting to just have that perspective. You're gonna all of these things, but he does have a very positive attitude. I also find it funny the way he does these videos. He does just like Chase the Traveler. He walks around with his phone. Yeah. And you can see the background. He goes to Shibuya a lot, go to Shinjuku and whatever.
Kabukicho.
Yeah. Goes to Kabukicho as well. Yeah. Yeah. He's also kind of has a way of addressing his videos. He's like a coach. He's like, you got to do this. You got to do that. You got to be this way. You got to be outgoing. You got to do it.
Yeah.
You know. All right. You know, he seems like a good guy. I find that annoying, but again, dude, we got like a 20 plus age difference. Yeah. And it's like, you know, whatever. You know, again, that's just wakai. Nanka mada nani mo wakanai hito no.
Yeah, I mean, that dude, like, he went to Japan because he said he went to this, because he said he was in a band, and he went to this music festival, which was like super small, not even a festival, a show or something. And he met a Japanese dude from Japan there. That dude flew in just to attend to that show. And they became good friends. So he was like, maybe, he said he was playing baseball and he was in a band. Then he was like, I want to change my life. And he moved to Japan.
Right.
So pretty much like maybe no context at all. He said his brother was an otaku, but you know, otaku in Chicago these days, I don't know, back in the days, like otaku meant what? You watch a couple animes.
Well, if you called yourself an otaku, you probably did more than that because it means you know that word. Now, I think maybe, well, also people have way more access to stuff now. So, I mean, like again, I'm not a big YouTube. I mean, when it comes to Japan, I don't watch YouTube videos about Japan, but like, I think I'm pretty sure YungJamez probably does because he's a YouTuber and, you know, but it's interesting to listen to the things he talks. He talks about a lot of very personal stuff, right? Like, again, I think it's the progression. It's like we got the YungJamez, then we got the JPBM, then we got the Chase, different ages, different amount of time in Japan, longer, you know?
Right.
And, but, you know, he talks about like dating and a bunch of other stuff, girls and like intimacy and all these things. I think he seems like he's a good guy. It also sounds like he feels like he needs to sound a certain way. I think that's the thing I don't dig too much. You got to like really, that's the thing that like, it just gets in the way. Like for me personally, watching the videos, I don't know.
Maybe me watching his videos, I'm like, a lot of things, I find myself being, omoshiroi. Or a lot of things at the same time, like, 本当に? Maybe stay a little longer, you'll get it. I mean, maybe things are different now.
What can you think of an example of something that you thought was interesting?
Especially like he talks a lot about meeting girls too, or friends. So I was like, maybe the dating.
Mad amateur, dude. This dude's an amateur.
Yeah.
YungJamez, yo, man.
So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, yeah. But again, he's a younger dude. Like learning things, experiencing things in Japan firsthand. So maybe I like the energy. And I guess like the things, he's like kind of wakai, how we see it. Maybe I see my younger self when I watch his videos. I'm like, maybe I did that too. I did that too. Like things like that.
Right.
I can't think of. There's so many of them, so I can't really think like this.
Right.
But personally, I enjoy listening to a younger Gaijin's like perspective on like now, like current Japan.
Right.
And also like looking at the background, like Kabukicho Tower, and you know how Japan is, like new buildings, and all the things that didn't exist when we were there, like dating apps.
Right.
I don't have any of that. So he was talking about like these dating things, like which app to use, and the app game, which I still don't have any apps, any dating.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not into any of that.
I'm like, but then it's kind of like omoshiroi. Oh, okay, that's how they do it these days. You know, swipe left or right. You know, all that stuff.
Right.
Apparently in Japan, that's the thing these days. How you date people. One other thing I really liked about James' video, he constantly talks about the importance of speaking Japanese, which is pretty fucking obvious at this point. But again,
it's pretty elementary, dude.
Yeah, but again, because of YouTube and all these influencers, Japan without Japanese, you can get away. I have this translator on my phone and all that shit. And then like, iru kudasai, or sushi 3人前 or something like that, right?
Right.
But no. He talks about depends on your Japanese level or if you can speak or not. The pool of the dating pool or your friends pool is gonna be like totally different.
Right, of course.
Yeah, but a lot of people they're like, I've seen like TikTok videos of kids going to Japan and meeting these gaijin hunters. And they're like, hey, man, like, yo, like, this is my new girlfriend and all that stuff. Like, I don't speak Japanese and, you know, we're having a good time. Like, y'all can come down to Japan, too, having a good time. I mean, if that's what they want to do.
If that's the level, of the interaction you want to have, of course, dude, yeah.
So, but
there's certain things you don't need to speak to do.
Exactly.
So, I mean.
So, your dating experience, say like regular Japanese girls and I guess like the westernized girls. What I mean by westernized girls is girls who had experience with Western cultures, foreigners, or they study abroad, girls like that. And someone who had an experience with both sides of the girls, I was like, yeah, it's totally different. Especially what I mean by that is the Western girls, westernized girls. Most of the girls, most of the time, they act American.
Okay.
Like we say, like we act American, and it's always like they overdo it in a cringy way. You know, all the, you know,
Right.
and constantly. And if you're in the hip hop community, these girls,
Right.
because their, I don't know, ex-boyfriend or now boyfriend is black, they constantly say the N-word and all that stuff. So I'm just like,
That's some cringe. That's some cringe Musume right there.
Yeah,
dude.
it's
That's
super
a
cringe stuff.
cringe.
Yeah, because I have a whole story about that, man.
You know what's funny, man? Like, it's always like really, it's not shocking. It's more, I mean, it's mad cringe, but like, you got Japanese culture where people are shy and kind of quiet, and they're really mindful of what they say, and they're even more mindful of telling you what they really think, as opposed to what is the norm to just say in any particular situation. And then you have hood talk,
Yeah.
which is the absolute polar opposite of that. And then you have these people that they're Japanese, which their culture is one way, and then they take this stuff and do that. And it's always so hard for me to like even comprehend, because it's like, what kind of weird cultural cosplay are you doing? And also, what's the reasoning behind it? You wouldn't do this normally in your own language. You just wouldn't.
I mean,
You just wouldn't even behave that way. But you see it. You do see it a lot though.
yeah, especially in
And
the
it is like
hip-hop
cosplaying.
community.
It isn't, you know, they'll wear. I mean, I remember once I went to one of your events and Taiga was performing too, and there were like go-go dancers on the stage,
Right.
and I remember this. It was a Christmas party, so they had the Santa Claus hat on, and then like, you know, the girls had like their jeans were like cut out, like the butts were cut out, so their ass was just hanging out of the jeans, and they're dancing and whatever. They're, you know, good dancers.
Go-go dancers. So.
Yeah. They also had this whole attitude, like, you know, they saw me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I guess they just thought like, you know, I didn't care, dude. I was there to see you guys, and you know, like she kind of like walked by me like, and I'm just like, nobody's looking at you. Shut the fuck up. But
it's their way of acting hip hop American, right?
Right. I mean, I've seen videos now where like they're all like imitating like Ice Spice and Cardi B, and like, you know, what's her name?
Migos.
Megan Thee Stallion.
Like
and
everybody these days. Yeah.
But dude, it's so weird, man. That's cringe as hell. Like it's just I don't know. That's personally to me is weird, man. I do whatever you want. You like that, go ahead. But like, it's very weird for me to see a Japanese person behave like that, because none of that is part of regular Japanese life. None of those attitudes, none of the hood mentality, you know what I mean? So it's funny.
So yeah, James mentioned that. So if you don't speak Japanese, pretty much those are the girls. That's the dating pool you're gonna date. And you know, like all these problems come from those things, like the westernized Japanese girls or whatever. But if you speak Japanese, then of course,
don't even know if you'd call it westernized, dude.
Westernized, like what do you
like,
call it?
I mean, again, like they're not acting American. We've said that a couple times in this video. They're not acting American. It's their own weird idea of what Americans act like.
Yeah.
And it's not westernized, because that would give you the impression that they understand Western culture and they've adopted some of those behaviors. It's not even that. It's like a weird cultural cosplay where they just, it's like some people choose stuff, dude.
But again, let's just call them westernized girls, fake, like pseudo westernized, something like that.
We got to find another word for it, because there are westernized people, who actually do speak a Western language. They don't. They do say what they really believe, and that is. When I went to Korea, I felt like Korea was more westernized than Japan in the way people behaved.
Yeah.
So there is such a thing as being a westernized Japanese person.
What do you call them then?
It's like a wannabe
American
Western behavior thing, like an inchki seiyojin, something like that. It's weird because they're not. It doesn't come from knowledge. It comes from like perception, what they perceive to be something, which is a whole other topic of Japan. Is how.
See, that's the thing about dating those girls. If a girl likes you solely based on your race or nationality, or in my case, like, oh, he's a rapper, he's hip hop, he's an American. Like, at first I'm like, oh, people like me, but it's not my music. It's everything but my music. So I didn't really care about any of those. And if you start dating those girls, messing around, going out with those girls, I found those experiences is super, super, super soul crushing. And one other thing, if they have some kind of fetish like K-pop, K-drama, those things, you're not the only Gaijin boyfriend, son. I tell you that much. They have other Gaijins lined up.
Right.
Yeah, man. So, but anyways, when I talk about dating a regular Japanese girl, like James mentioned it, I'm talking about actual, like, serious relationship, not a one-time summer Japan trip fling type stuff. I mean, if that's what you guys want, fine. But I don't know.
He does mention some really funny things, like, like one of the things he mentioned is like how in Japan, this be real controversial, dude, but in Japan, no doesn't mean no. Right? And that's something where, like, and I mean, I was told that by a girl in Japan.
Yeah, same.
We're hanging out, we were at a park, it was at night, we're talking and whatever, and then she said, when a girl says no, it doesn't mean no. And I was like, yo. And YungJamez said the same thing. He had an experience like that too. Where I told her, like, yo, where I'm from, if a girl says no,
no means no.
That's the end of everything. Like, it's
better to end that way too.
What's that?
It's better to end that way too.
No means no, and that's it. And like, that's been like, abundantly, stated, but over there, it's kind of the opposite in that specific scenario. Where like people are getting intimate, and then there's like, yamete. That's a cultural thing. That's a cultural thing. Yeah, he goes more into it.
I was like, saying like regular Japanese girls and wannabe westernized girls. I was like talking mad shit about these girls, but like, again, man, other side of the fence is not that greener. They have their own problems too. Right? But at least. This side of the fence, problems, to me at least, they feel like an actual boyfriend and girlfriend problems. Whereas this is like sometimes life or death, or like has to be like, oh, getting deported. I just met this girl 2 days ago, but she's texting me that she's pregnant, type stuff. And it's real when it comes to especially the Gaijin hunters. It's real. It's like girls,
but that's just some
but they're out there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's that nightlife, nightlife people, man. Yeah. The other thing is, clubbing and stuff, at least when I was there, it wasn't like a normal Japanese person thing to do, to go to clubs and whatever. Like, they'll go to izakaya, they'll go to bars, and they usually go with a group of people, and they'll do their gokon, which is like, okay, 5 guys, 5 girls, or whatever number of people, and we'll drink, and then we'll talk to each other, and maybe you find someone. But the whole thing about going to a club by yourself or like trying to find someone or whatever, that's for very particular people in Japan.
Right.
It's not like everybody goes to clubs.
Right.
And then on top of it, it's funny, like I realized like no clubs I've ever been to in Japan played Japanese music. It was always like American music. And, in your case, a lot of your venues, I mean, that's hip hop. So like those clubs, even after when you drink, it's still like hip hop or whatever. But, there's like EDM, there's that type of thing. But like, there was never Japanese music. I always thought, why is there no Japanese music? And they're like, no, like it's not cool. It has to be foreign music. And But I do. Yeah, now that you say that, I realize, like, yeah, whenever I did go to clubs, man, the way people behave there was very, very different.
Exactly. Yeah. This side of the fence,
very different. There are some wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was completely different.
Yeah. Now I see these kids go to Japan, and again, dudes like, I'm in Japan, TikTok, whatever, I got these girls, whatever. Yeah, man. And plus, I think I saw this one dude talking about, he went to the club in Kabukicho. He starts talking to these girls, and there was a group of Japanese dudes in the corner, and they looked like thugs too. And they were ready to jump him, and so he just left and ran. Who was this? Like this American kid. I don't know his name, but I just saw it on TikTok. And dude was like, "Yo, like,
he was filming a video, and in the background you could see people that wanted to."
No. He mentioned, he noticed this group of dudes, and it's not a Japanese high type Japanese dude. Like,
they're getting ready to roll him, dude.
It's like, yo, like probably like tried to rob him too, because obviously he's a Gaijin, and obviously he's a tourist. Yeah. So it's a quick stick up, man. Quick loop right there. So this was in Kabukicho too. So it's nothing there. Like, catch him outside type stuff. So he said he got out the club and he ran to the station or something like that. Got into a taxi or something like that. Right. But
wow, I think I never
like that
met.
Happens.
It does. No, for sure. But like I've never met anybody. I've never run into anybody that's been trying to like do anything. Like, I don't know. I guess I don't know what this YouTuber looked like. Some people kind of give the impression that you can come up to them and take their. I don't think I walked around looking like you can come.
When I saw him, I was like, I can rob this motherfucker.
So I got a list of YungJamez video titles to kind of illustrate what his videos are about. So yeah, one of them is "They are so angry about this." And so he talks about, like, people just saying, can you make friends in Japan? Can you do things in Japan? And his whole thing is like, you can do anything you want. You just have to put the work in and you have to learn the language, right? He did a video just meeting like other YouTubers in Shibuya. It's just so many foreigners at that Hachiko, like meeting place. It's full of Gaijin. It's so weird to see, dude. But I mean, that's Japan now. Japanese people do not like cologne. That's one thing, like, straight up, they don't. And like, the funny thing, what he was saying was, they don't like cologne, they don't like strong smells, but he's like, everybody smells like cigarettes out here. And he's like, that smells way worse than cologne.
Good point.
But what's also funny is, if you ever go to Roppongi Station, Roppongi is the neighborhood where all the foreigners go. That's all the foreigner clubs, bars, all that stuff. That station smells like cologne and perfume. Oh, yeah. And you notice because no other place.
From the train, yeah.
Yeah. No other place. And people waiting on the platforms and stuff. It's just, there's a lot of foreigners there. And you are aware of it all of a sudden. Yeah. Because nowhere else do you really smell perfume or cologne. If you do, it's very faint. People in Japan don't like
too strong,
really fragrant stuff, but you go to Roppongi, man, it smells like Paco Rabanne and DK1 and whatever.
Extra, I mean, that already musky.
Yeah, it's strong. It's strong. Let's just say there's certain cultures like to douse that more than others. I would say here in the US, people, it depends on the person, obviously, but it's not like people are just or like just the body spray like crazy. But then, other countries, people get wild with it. Yeah. And a lot of them go to Roppongi. He's got a $345 a month apartment, which is great. That's half of what I paid.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that too. Yeah.
What, more than 10 years later? And it actually, dude, that apartment looked pretty cool. It wasn't bad at all. Said, don't play this dangerous game with women in Japan. And I think that video was probably the yamete, no, don't stop.
Oh, that too, and probably, Gaijin hunters where like girls try to trap you or
Right.
sue you. And stuff.
Then he says, was this racism? Is another video. And this was funny. Like, I guess he was at like a doctor's appointment and there were like two young girls next to him. And then one girl told the other, yeah, ここに来て、ここに座って。あそこは英語になるから。She's basically like, come here and sit over here because if we sit, too close to him, he's going to start talking to us in English.
English, right.
And, he was kind of like a bit upset about that. He was like, what the hell was that all about? But, and again, I think that's also, I don't know, it just evidences how many more foreigners are over there now than when I lived there because, he's saying like, foreigners don't just go up to people and speak to them in English. Like, I understand like Japanese people, have a hard time with English. They have a hard time just speaking to strangers in general, even if they're Japanese.
Right.
Most people just don't want to talk to people they don't know, especially in Tokyo. If you go out to the countryside, it's a little bit different. People are a little bit more open to just talking to a random person. Osaka people just talk. It's one of the things I liked about Osaka. People are not shy like people in Tokyo. But, he was kind of upset about that. And he was just like, what's that all about? He's like, I speak Japanese, which kind of reminded me of what JPBM said, that Japanese people just assume you don't speak English or don't speak Japanese, which they do assume. Everybody always assumed I couldn't understand anything. And part of that, helped me really learn what Japanese people think. Because they just talk shit right next to you. right. So, and then, when they were done talking shit, then I would tell her, I would just tell them, like, いや、相手が何が分かるか分からないから、もう気をつけた方がいいよ。You might want to be careful about what you say around people, right? And then they're like,
heart attack.
But thanks to them really just assuming I didn't understand, I could kind of see them in their natural habitat and their natural behavior.
Who they really
they weren't like, oh, this guy's gonna understand. So, it sometimes it was a positive thing. Maybe a girl was like, cho type. Like, oh, I really like him. And, and then I can kind of listen. And so I got a bit of an upper hand there. I already know, like, so in those situations, that's cool too. The other thing he said was a Yakuza encounter. Is this guy still alive? He said there was, he was in Kabukicho. Between the buildings, they have those little narrow corridors that go
those little super, like, you have to.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to go in.
Right. Well, some of them you are, which is crazy. Some of them you actually get to bars going through there.
Right,
yeah.
right.
A lot of people go in there and pee.
Yeah.
They're drunk and they're like, they got nowhere to go. They just get in there. Everybody did that.
Yeah. They have like air conditioned, the
air conditioners,
the fans outside.
Yeah, you don't want to pee in front of those, dude.
Nah.
And he said he saw like a guy in a suit, which he thought might have been Yakuza. And there was another Westerner in there and he had him up against the wall. And the guy was like, oh, they're going to kill me, help. And he said he was on a date with a girl. And she was like, no, let's go. And he felt, and I understand this too, as a Westerner. You see someone in trouble, you want to help them, right? That's not the Japanese response to someone in trouble. They're not the normal one. Most people see trouble and they go the opposite direction. They're like, this has nothing to do with me. I don't want to get in trouble. If that's Yakuza, I don't want to be in it. And I understand that too. And that's a cultural thing. The first time I went to Japan, I saw some of these catchy guys, the guys that like try to get girls to work at their clubs and stuff. And they grab him by the wrists.
Yeah.
And they don't, but they also don't know how to say no. And they're just kind of like, like trying not to look at it. Yeah. And that really upset me. This was back in 2004. Wow. 20 years ago, dude. Damn. And like, I remember like I really was fighting the urge to like tell the dude to let her go. Like she doesn't want to talk to you, dude. Leave her alone. But I remember my friends telling me, hey man, like if you see some stuff like that, like just don't get involved. So, he wanted to like help the guy out. Then the guy turned out to be, he was drunk and he might have done something bad. And like the girl kept telling him, let's go. So he left. But he was talking about that, about like, seeing people in certain scenarios and wanting to like intervene and his Japanese friends telling him, no, don't do that.
Right.
That's the other thing that was funny. The yamete, stop story with the girl.
Yeah.
Where he's getting busy and she says, stop. And then he did. He was telling this story to his Japanese friends. And they were like, and you stopped? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, what? And then he's just like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, no. When they say that, they don't mean it. Again, and in the video, he says, yo, if you ever hear that, don't play any weird games. Just stop and whatever.
Exactly.
And I will tell you, I've heard from other Westerners, like after I finished Pikachu, I had more time to go out and stuff. And that's when I started like meeting other foreigners. And I heard countless stories of people getting deported, people being accused of things and whatever. And it's just
getting
like,
locked up even.
Yeah. But also I feel like they were just hanging out with bad people to begin with. Dude.
That too, yeah.
And I think to a degree, when you're a foreigner, you attract a certain element just because you're different and they're different, they're kawata. Not all of them, but like the people who gravitate towards foreigners, a lot of times they're not the average normal Japanese person, you know?
Right.
It's not always the case. If you speak Japanese fluently, then you can talk to anybody, so you will have normal people come up to you too because you speak Japanese. So now that opens the door for them. They already know a lot more about you. They're like, this person went through the trouble of learning our language. He's polite. So definitely this is a different type of foreigner, whatever idea of foreigners they have. And then the other video was, do Japanese people hate Americans? Which was funny. It was funny. You know, what he said is that, like, I experienced that too. Like,
I want to check that.
Americans are kind of, what's that?
I want to check that video out. Probably I haven't watched it.
Americans are kind of, when it comes to foreigners, you're kind of like in a higher ranking country in terms of like perception from the general Japanese public, you know, they like, you know, American shows and music and whatever. And like, so they see it as something cool, you know. It doesn't mean because you're American, you're a cool person. But in general, you know, compared to maybe other countries where they don't like so much, you know, like America, US is definitely up there, you know, and they like, you know, they like France, they like Italy, they romanticize, you know,
Germany.
Yeah, it depends. But there's certain countries that like they have kind of like either pop culture things or cultural things that they're into, like the food or like the music or like wine or like certain things like that. Like Italy is popular, France is popular. I've known that. I've noticed that being over there. And the US, like, you know, whenever I said I was from the US, like it was just a lot of sugoi, and they want to talk and they want to ask a lot of stuff. And they also usually just assumed I was American too by looking at me. And what was the other thing he said? He talked about countries that Japanese people don't like. And
that's a lot of like street interviews too, like street interview YouTubers or Instagram kids too. They always ask, like, which country do you like?
Yeah, I hate those videos, dude.
Man.
I mean, it's weird because we have a video channel about Japan and stuff, but man, I really just don't like watching any of those. I don't know. Again, it's the problem.
It's pretty superficial too. They're pretty superficial.
Yeah, it's just stupid. The other thing he said was like other foreigners hate Americans. They hate Americans.
100%.
And like
100%.
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, everybody hates Americans.
I guess, yeah. I didn't really encounter that, but again, I was also told, like, you know, like, oh, well, you don't behave like an American, which I don't know what that means, but I guess.
But I guess they know because they do all the.
Yeah, or like the posturing and stuff, the whole like, oh, you know, like that type of stuff.
Or the extra, like, hey, like, I mean, it's. Yeah,
I mean, it might be that, you know, it might be that. Like, I mean, YungJamez was saying, you know, the foreigners he encounters are like that with him. But again, it's part of what I told you when we started talking about the YungJamez channel, the whole like the realest motherfucker in the land of the long backs. You know, you're putting that out there. You're giving that impression of yourself. Like, you might call it being a bro or whatever, but like most people see that as like, you know, if they don't have context. like, hey, this is a young guy and he's just kind of putting a front because he's, I don't know, like figuring out who he is in life. If you don't have that context, you're just like, this guy's a douchebag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
right.
he did mention like a lot of the European people he met, they're always, oh, you're American, blah, blah, blah. He's a nice guy. He's not an asshole, but like at the same time, you got to be aware of like what kind of image you project.
Yeah, I mean, me talking about meeting other gaijins in Japan, he mentioned that like maybe because he met a lot of maybe LBHs or charisma men or women or like super super otakus.
Losers back home.
Losers back home.
Yeah.
Or like extra weebs or Japanophiles. One thing I was kind of like so was he said he felt way closer to his Japanese friends than other gaijins in Japan.
Right.
And I felt the same way when I was in Japan. And,
yeah, me too.
I mean, of course, I have cool gaijin friends, but for the most part, it was always awkward meeting other gaijins, especially in Roppongi. Again, nightlife people. And every time I ran into one of those groups, it seemed that they already have their own little gaijin circle in Tokyo. It's super exclusive, which I didn't even give a about. I mean, like, I have friends, but it always felt like they were constantly testing me or evaluating me. Like asking like, so where are you really from?
I see.
Because I'm an Asian American. They're like,
right.
And why are you in Japan? And of course, the golden question. Do you like Japanese girls? I'm like, yes, should I say no? I don't like Japanese girls? That's even weirder. So like,
well, I mean, here's the thing:
like
if it's a girl, if it's a Western girl asking you that, there's a reason for them asking you that.
Oh, that we'll get into that too later on. But yeah. But like, and on top of that, I had in my case, I had Asian American in Japan, Asian American communities in Japan.
Right.
They were all the same. Little groups that then never blend into a Japanese community. So it was like their own little gaijin groups here and there, all scattered around Tokyo. And I'm like, man. It was always weird, like looking at those guys. Japanese Americans, Korean Americans, and even ryugakse community. But you would think, like, if you're both from the States and you come to Japan, you think, oh, they'd be like mad welcoming and be like, yo, supportive, right? No. When I got to Japan, most Asian American communities didn't even want to meet me. And all the ryugakses, more than half of them, did not want to meet. I never met him. And I called them, texted them.
Right.
Back then it was like mail, not text.
Right.
No reply, radio silent. And this was before social media too.
How did you encounter them the first time?
Like
where'd
here
you meet
in
them?
the States. These are the dudes in the States. And like went to school together or met him at the club while performing.
Right.
And dudes like we went out to drink, became good friends. A big circle. My friend circle is pretty big, right? So I'm like, and these are the motherfuckers saying like, I want to show you around when you come to Tokyo. Daku, zettai Nihon kite. And some dudes are like, Nihon no ore o misetai Daku ni.
Yo, that line is always weird to me. That's
some like fucking reverse charisma man type.
That's
right?
What? I want to show you the Japanese me.
Yeah, and like, yo, like
what?
Yeah, exactly. So you already know something's weird, right? And I have many friends in Japan. When you come to Japan, like onna no kanojo shoukai shite ageru. Stuff like that. I'm like, I don't need your in kanojo shoukai. Like, just love me anyway. And and if I met someone like that from that group in Japan, they're not the same person I remember. Nanka erai.
This is the way they behave?
Yeah. Nanka erasou. Taido wa.
Right.
Again, Nihon no ore o misetai.
Yo, what? Why are you different in the US?
Yeah. And also I start to see this weird pattern every time I meet those guys. there was never like he said, he or she said, like, minna there, I'll take you to a good spot in Japan. I'll introduce to all my friends. No, when I got to Japan, it was always one-on-one. And it was always at a weird time too, like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. I was like, yo, like, what do we do at 3, 4 p.m.? It was like, like, ocha shi ocha. I'm like, I don't know ocha. It's like either we eat or drink, right? But then he's like, ocha, went to like one of those, like
you guys were two guys going to little cake. Get out. I'm never talking to you again, dude.
It's something like that. And these guys were always kind of like, it always felt like they were in a hurry, like rushing to like get over this like meat duck for once because I said something back in the States and like get over it and go home. And many times it's not only like one person, it was many times actually. But more like the rest didn't even show up, and it always left me this weird taste in my mouth. So
it's probably that sweet strawberry shortcake you guys were eating with your tea,
combination. But which always got me thinking, like, what did I do? Did I do something wrong back then? What'd I do? I was always kind of like, did I say something super up and made people uncomfortable back then? Or did they have some kind of, I don't know, like grudge from the States? And now it's time to pay back in Japan. But
did you say something?
No, like that's what I felt after meeting all these guys. I had like Asian American friends, or like the dudes, not even friends, some Asian Americans who were already in Tokyo that I ran into at all these clubs or events.
Right.
They never wanted to meet me again. But then I still had a lot of other Japanese friends. So I'm like,
what do you think it was though?
So I just gave him the benefit of the doubt, like, probably their lives must be mad busy in Japan.
Right.
And
well, that's also a thing. Yeah. That is a thing in Tokyo. Yeah, like you want to meet somebody, it's got to be like, next week, 2 weeks from now.
But for 7 years, not even once.
Right, yeah, no, that's different.
10年後の, like 10 years later, Saturday. But still, you know, I moved on from those guys. But real talk, man, it bothered me for years until my other Asian American friends told me that, Daku wa ne, minna no kako o shirisugi. You know too much about their past and even what they really are, right? Like, turns out to be like these guys, especially Asian American dudes, and ryugakuseis too, when they return to Japan or move to Japan, they lie about their past. They get a new identity.
Right.
It's heavily edited too.
Right.
And I even had my tanto at the label like ask me about some dudes. Like, Daku, like, do you know this dude from LA? Do you know this dude from, I don't know, New York or whatever?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I know him. Well, I'm not close with him, but I know what he's been doing and all that stuff.
Right,
because he used to come to my show. And he's like, yo. He said this. He said he did this, these things, all these things in LA or wherever. I'm like, yo, that's not true, because
it's all fabrications, dude.
That's all heavily edited, rewritten history, man. And I'm like, yo, like, that's what I and my friends used to do there. He was there.
Oh no,
like,
dude.
They were there as an audience. So again, this was before social media.
Right.
So when they went to Japan, they made up this cooked up this story and tell these people. And a lot of them are kind of like that. Like, especially ryugakuseis, when they went back to Japan. Now, they went back to Japan. Now it's like, America desu ha.
Oh, the tall tales come out, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, I did all this stuff. Back in the US.
So no doubt they didn't want to meet me. Because let's say they go to izakaya with their friends. Again, it was always one-on-one, right?
Well, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, they're gonna.
So let's say, Felipe がアメリカで Like
Right.
he told me he did this. Like, honto nano? Then I'll be like,
Right.
again, I wasn't there to expose people. I was trying to do my music.
No,
stuff,
but
like,
their friends would make sure to do it themselves. Dude.
exactly. So they're like, you're not meeting anybody.
Right.
So again,
Yeah.
a lot of people. Again, it's not only Japan. I was in Korea too. Because I know
Right.
this mother who came from Korea, and he was saying all this stuff. Like he represent New York, Brooklyn, all that stuff. I'm like, yo, man.
Right.
Got to talk to him. None of that stuff. Then when I went to Korea, he thought he would never meet me again. Turns
Right.
out to be for within weeks in Korea. Met the dude.
You bumped into him?
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
damn you.
Of course, like those
man.
guys, of course, in front of you, they're like, oh, hisashiburi desu. What's going on? Like, welcome to Korea, whatever.
Right.
As soon as they turn around, now, like, the ura politics.
Right.
It was like telling all these stories to the people around me and stuff. So people like, yeah, Daku-kun, あいつがこう言ってるんですけど、本当ですか? No. But then again, I'm not there to expose his ass, right?
You
I'm not
but
there
you
to
were
expose
never like
nobody's ass. But still,
I
you
know.
know,
Well, of
again,
course,
they
you
all
didn't
like,
go-
oh, they see me and like, yeah,
You didn't go there for that, but when they asked you, what'd you do? You weren't like, I don't know. You'd be like, give him the.
No, I'm just like, yeah,
straight
like, I don't
info.
know. No, I mean, it was already done. It was already done. Everybody believed him. So, again, things like that. It's pretty real in Japan, in Korea,
Yeah.
even in China.
Yeah, that's why
stuff
people
like-
are quiet. People are quiet. They don't want to say too much. They don't want to. That's part of the honen tatemaya has to do with those things too. Like,
But whatever.
And
man.
also-
I kind of felt like samishi though. I'm like, yo, like if you live in that life, try to be like kakoi dude
Right.
who just returned from the States. Just give me a heads up, man. I'll play along, right?
why? But they don't know. They don't know how you would feel about it.
But
Yeah.
again, at the same time, like, I wasn't gonna jump through all these hoops.
You're like, hey, Duck,
Yeah,
yo,
Jedi
dude,
mind
like,
read these motherfuckers and be like, oh,
Well,
I'll
that's-
play along with that. But
you know what? Like that's part of I think you know that's something Chase the Traveler understands.
Exactly,
It's something
yeah.
JBPBM. I don't know if he really has figured that out yet, and it's something that YungJamez is bumping into. Is the fact that you know sometimes you gotta like. I mean, you definitely. It's not sometimes. You need to be thinking about what the other people are thinking.
right.
It's part of that's why it's so tiring to live in
Yeah,
Japan is
yeah.
that you have to think, okay, what do they want me to say in this situation? It's not what do I think, it's what can I say that's not going to upset them or mess up their whole scenario with their stories they made up.
Especially in business settings.
Yeah, but even in social settings, dude,
Yeah.
business for sure.
Yeah.
But social settings, man, like there's a lot of that. And you know, I hear in some of YungJamez stuff, he's like, you know, I don't want to do any of that. I want to say what I really believe. I'm going to be, and it's like, okay, listen, take some advice from Chase the Traveler. If you want to, if you want to do things, if you want to last, you can't be like that. And I was told that personally. I was told you can't
Right.
be yourself here, Felipe. You can't be yourself.
Right.
I was told that early on.
Me too. 自分を
Yeah.
ちょっと
Yeah, and I was like, if I can't be myself, what the f- am I doing? I felt like
Right,
that.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
then I
same,
lived there 3
same.
more years.
then
And
it all
after a
made
while, I was like,
sense.
hey, you know, it did. But also I realized like I don't want to not be myself.
Right.
You know, it's just, dude, I'm not Japanese. That's normal in Japan, and they don't even see it as such a crazy thing as
Right.
I might, because it's kind of the norm. You don't have to be yourself all the time. You shouldn't. You should be the you
That's a
that other people
politically
want to see.
correct thing to do in Japan, right?
Right. And that's, I think, what Chase the Traveler was saying about the political correctness. That's what he meant by political correctness, is that navigation of social situations where it's you say what you really think versus what they want you to say and what they want to hear from you. So I would say, though, anybody who wants to live in Japan, that's something they have to navigate.
Right.
Westerners might say that's being two-faced,
But
that's kind of
that's just
what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And
And
it's a cultural thing, though.
It is. And to me, you know, I don't really miss that. You know, I know how to do it. I think I did it rather well, but it was just, you know how you said sabishi? Like this guy, like having this whole like weird secret, like personality.
Not only guy, like
back history.
guys and girls, many of them that I used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super
Yeah.
mendokusai, man. And
Yeah, it's just that I feel maybe
you have to go
most
through
likely,
all
dude.
that, just to keep the relationship going. I'm like, I'm fine. I have enough friends. I'll get new friends.
Right. But see, here's the thing. They came out, I'm guessing, they came out to the US and they gave you their honne like all the time because they were in LA.
Who knows?
For the ones who were in LA, or they were just going
Exactly.
ham,
Right.
being a crazy character
Right.
here that they couldn't be in Japan. But I would think, it's easier. I mean, I've heard this from many Japanese friends. It's easier for them to be themselves abroad,
Yeah, you see it.
because they don't have to worry so much about what something might sound like or what someone might think. It's just, in other countries, the culture is, just be you. And, to certain degrees, you can't just say whatever the hell you want in every country either. Like here in the US, even though it's rather free socially, you can't just tell everybody exactly what you think all the time. It's just a different level than Japan.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you talking about, like, some dudes, or was I talking about it? Like, some dudes that used to be, like, super close here. Not just, like, acquaintances. Like, actual friends. And when they return to Japan, like, totally different person, man. And to the point, it's not like they're being an otona or a businessman. It's like, they don't want to do anything with you anymore. I'm like, yo, like, all those nights drinking together, ha ha ha, whatever, like, And this, which got me thinking, I think this is what you remember, like which one was the real you?
Right.
Okay, let's say, like, you came to LA, and now, like, all the Japanese, like, social pressure is gone, so that's a real you, but you now living in Japan for how many years? Like 2 or 3 years, then you went back to Japan. And if you're living in Japan for like more than 30 years, you're fake you. Isn't that the real you? And this is the fake you? I always had
Well, I mean, that's the
question,
balance. That's the social balance in Japan. I think that's the social balance in Japan. Like we call it the fake you here because it's not as extreme, but over there, that's part of navigating society being a person that's going to take certain things that normally they wouldn't want to, and they're going to say certain things that they don't really think they don't really mean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's more like the tatemae thing that I never saw, tatemae side of him that I never saw when he or she was here.
Right.
And when they went back to Japan, that's all the parts they showed me.
Right.
Like,
well,
so I'm like, oh, okay.
And the other thing is, I think
that, I'm like, yo.
I think that's like the standard mode, especially like in like social. Again, a lot of the people we met. I mean, fortunately, I don't know. My friends that I met here, they never changed.
By the way, all good friends are the same.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about the extremes, and there were a lot. But
yeah, and the other thing I remember now that you bring that up, I remember meeting with a group of people from like the karaoke days and stuff, at an izakaya, and I was like drawing I took a page there to draw just so I could hang out with them, and then they were asking me like what I thought about certain things in Japan. And I'd been there already for a while, and I'd already learned my lesson. Dude, I learned the hard way, man. Like I got.
We did.
yeah. Like I got into situations where like, I got yelled at and whatever, and I was just like, what the hell,
Right.
And you once that happens, you're a lot more careful and cautious about how you do things and what you say. And then one of the friends from LA that was Japanese asked me like, what do you think about this? And I gave him kind of like a diplomatic answer, like a diplomatic Japanese answer. Like it wasn't like me. And then he said, "Oh man, like they ruined you."
No, I don't know.
He said that, and he said it like that. He said it like that. Like he's like, "Yeah, Felipe wa na mo nanka mo mottai nai na mo nihonjin ni nachchatta mitai Felipe wa." Like you just become like another Japanese person now. Like you don't tell us what you really think. And when I heard that, I felt up. The reason I felt that way is because it was actually true what he was saying. I was changing because you have to. That's another thing Chase, the traveler, said. He's like, you live here long enough, you do become Japanese if you're gonna function both in social and professional environments. Part of you is gonna become more Japanese because it's the only way. And he was like disappointed that I had become more socialized in the Japanese way of doing stuff. I kind of, I don't know, I didn't like hearing that from him. But at the same time, the same person that said that started acting differently too. He was different. Like, you know, he's one of the first people I spoke to when I was in LA. Like, and you know, he was really friendly and like, you know, super cool. And then he changed. We've talked about this before, but he like changed his behavior and stuff. And I was like, what is that about? And he's the same person who said that. And, you know, it's too bad, but it is what it is, you know?
But yeah, YungJamez.
So yeah, wrapping it up, YungJamez, dude, like...
go check out his video.
Go check out his
nice
videos.
Energy though. He got nice energy.
He does. He's very positive.
Oh, he's a handsome ass dude too. So...
Yeah. Like...
ladies.
You know, I talk smack and whatever, but yeah, I mean, like, guys out there, he's keeping it positive. He wants to learn. He talks about how much he wants to learn and stuff, which is always good. And yeah, he's got interesting videos.
Again, YungJamez. So yeah, watching all these videos. So you see what I'm talking about, right? YungJamez, JPBM, and Chase the Toravera. I don't know, like...
Again, nobody's ever said that. That's just you. He's never said it like that. He's never written it in Japanese.
Chase the Traveler. But again, man,
it's false advertisement, dude.
See those videos? It's, I mean, I saw myself and each one of those like videos actually. Like when I was, I mean, even the Japan YouTubers, like the touristy stuff, still like at first I'm like but then that gets old super quick.
Right.
Then YungJamez, JPBM, I was super like that at the end of my stay, and maybe not like Chase because you know I haven't lived there that long.
Right.
And I'm still, you know, kind of like trying to make sense of some of the things that happened in Japan. But I mean, it seems like he overcame a lot of those things, right? So probably like maybe a little bit of Chase, but what I saw was like the evolution of Gaijin.
Right.
Like the new Gaijin and this, and probably the JPBM dude. Again, like you mentioned, that's when people just leave, or they're just like, okay, push through, right?
Right. Yeah.
I guess like the positive outcome is Chase.
Right.
But
it's the evolution of the Gaijin Pokemon, dude.
Good times watching those videos. Hope everybody watches them videos too. So
yeah, check them out. Tell him Cringe Musume sent you. Tell him Cringe Musume sent you. Let's see. It'd be cool to talk to some of these guys. Maybe one day we'll talk to them. That would be nice.